Hello everyone, welcome back to the Nullify Take channel where we've got the spicy TNT takes for you on the Traitors episode 4. That is right. I have got my co-host Mucky here with me tonight. I'm your host Chris, and sadly, no Kahuna this week. Rumor has it, Mucky was very close to Kahuna last night with a chalky milk. Mucky, how long was that chalky milk in the fridge for? And do you have something to confess here on this episode?
Well, I found that chocolate milk is chocolate milk, whether it's been out in the sun for 8 hours or if it's been in the fridge for 8 hours, right? You just got to consume it and accept it, right? Your body will just naturally accept it. My stomach is so strong because the amount of chocolate milk I've drank when it's been in the boiling hot sun for even several days. Yeah. But I still smash that bad boy down like it's a glass of water.
Yeah. Sit-ups for what? You know, when you've got Mucky's workout routine and stomach exercises that he do. But I don't think Kuna was prepared for that. And potentially we've lost Kuna here for tonight's podcast. But he should be back later on this week. Lovable Nikki, welcome to the live. Good morning over there. I know it's really early. We always appreciate having you on. Shadut back as well, saying, yo, we are back. And I hope Chardud has caught up on the episode so he can take part tonight here in the conversation. Lovable Nikki saying, hello, Chris and Mucky. And I don't think she would be signing up to the Mucky fitness regime anytime soon for those stomach exercises. Chardud is saying, are you sure it wasn't muddy water you found on the ground? Yeah, it does look pretty muddy.
I've had some pretty close calls in my time, but it's glad to pass them.
Mucky, we had a lot of fun on the live last week. We spoke about all things Traitors related. I was looking forward to episode 4 a lot. And we even spoke about how, it's great to see these celebrities or previous, players or contestants of reality shows playing this season because they already know how to provide good entertainment. And for us, that was a positive. There were, I think, maybe one comment last week in our comment section of someone saying they didn't appreciate it. They like the UK more with new players, and each to their own. Obviously, different people like the reality TV differently. But for me, it did hit home that, we had a really good cast on our hands. Did it deliver for you here in episode 4? Are you still all in on the Traitors Mania that is happening at the moment?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I said it last week. I think the Traitors game as a viewer is much more interesting when you have a celebrity or an all-star type cast, right? Because straight off the bat, we're already so invested into all these different storylines, whereas with new players, it takes a long time to actually really settle in, if that makes sense. Like even with Traitors New Zealand, which arguably is probably the best Traitors show out there, it was also really good because a lot of the people playing in it were celebrities around New Zealand. Like Mike Pitt, Brody Kane, I've been watching them on TV since I was a kid. So it's quite interesting to see how they'll play together. Everyone's known each other for years. So it just creates such an interesting dynamic and you're already so invested. Whereas with a newbie cast, it sort of takes a while to really
to know them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's actually hard watching people like Sandra come back to play the show where in Survivor, Sandra is the queen of Survivor, the undisputed queen of Survivor. I know Parvati won't like me saying that, but it is facts, right? She's won it twice and you can't take that away from her. And seeing her play this game as a faithful, not having all the answers, but consistently throughout this episode saying, my reads are good. I can normally pick out on who's lying to me and who's doing what, but knowing she's the faithful, she doesn't have all the information, and they're not playing on an equal playing field. It's even making someone with Sandra's capabilities look like she's not all that much onto the game that's playing out in front of her eyes, which is shocking to see, right? Because normally she's got really good instincts.
Yeah, but also at the same time, it makes players really stand out. Like for those who watch Traitors Canada, there was a faithful, his name was Kevin. He was a massive Big Brother Canadian player. I think he won once or something.
Yeah, I'm a big Kevin fan. Shout out to Kevin.
Yeah, massive shout out to Kevin. He's arguably one of the best faithfuls in my opinion because he cracked onto all 3 traitors. Unfortunately, he couldn't get rid of all 3, but he was already starting that movement. It was just because a lot of that cast was more stupider than than me. So it was harder for him to actually get that ball rolling. But when you do have players like Sandra and like Kevin, who normally in their own private field of surviving Big Brother would absolutely dominate, but in this, the kind of cut back down, if they're able to get a foot in the game. Like, I think if Sandra sniffs out the Parvati's a traitor, Parvati's gone. And I think Sandra just needs to get a whiff on someone, and I think she'll be able to gather that ammunition to take them out.
But I do think that in a big part from what we saw in this episode, there is really the allegiances that are coming into play. Obviously, there's going to be some takes on what happened on the round table, and I want to jump into the main course when we're still having some dessert at the moment, you know. But we know that there's going to be these different pockets that are forming, and I do think Sandra's probably finding some safety within the reality competitive TV realm, playing with some of those players. Even though she's been trying to play that middle ground, also cozying up to the housewives, I think now that she's shown her cards after this episode, it's going to be very hard for her to go back. But I would still put her down as one of the people that could potentially pull it off and go to the housewives and get somebody like a Parvati out. But there's also some great strategy happening this episode by a certain Mr. Dan Giesling. He is putting some work in because he's been under fire. And are you starting to see little bits of elements of why I rate him so high as a game player, possibly one of the best to ever play in any reality TV? Have you spotted certain of the subtle things that he did this week? I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I absolutely did. You know, coming off of last week, I was thinking that Dan could potentially be the first trader out, right? Especially with Larsa coming onto him. But he's gone from being potentially the first trader out to now, I think, being one of the last traders found. You know, like Phaedra's going to blow up at Parvati, and Parvati's going to target Phaedra. Phaedra's going to target Parvati. It's just going to cause so much heat onto both of them that Dan is perfectly, like, he was like out in front for a bit, and he's perfectly set himself back in. It's kind of like the Ali Gabler strategy. I think Dan could potentially be.
There's actually a thing that Big Brother players used to call Dan whenever he would sort of, I would say, deflect and sort of direct attention in a different direction. They used to call it the Dan mist, you know? So there's actually this thing called the mist. So when someone puts the mist on someone in Big Brother, that's what Dan is known for. And I feel like we saw a little bit of that Dan mist with Parvati in this episode. Not only in this episode, but even in the previous episode, I was very impressed by how he was able to let Parvati do a lot of the dirty work for him in this episode, and he could sit back, take a back seat while potentially she's drawing some heat on her. I think he's doing some really, really good things. But let's start off with the beginning of the episode. Let's talk about, obviously we had this big moment where Parvati had to choose someone to drink out of the goblet. We don't know who it was going to be. And we do have lovable Nikki asking, she does want to know, are you in mourning?
Crying. I actually am tearing up. Like, God, so dumb. Absolutely stupid. And let me tell you why, right? Let me just say,
Mucky, if you need a moment, we can just sit here and we can have a moment.
This is my moment right now. This is a really hot take, and I know that this might stir some stuff up on my Instagram feed when I wake up tomorrow. But Parvati took out Ekin-Su because Parvati is no longer the hot one, it's Ekin-Su. All right, she recognized that as the threat, and so she took out Ekin-Su, which is so dumb because Ekin-Su really trusted Parvati. And Parvati did that because, like, correct me if I'm wrong, was there any consequence to the traitors not pulling off a murder?
I don't remember there being
Yeah.
anything. I don't remember there being a consequence, but I feel like there should be a consequence to something like that. Maybe it
Yeah.
wasn't clearly explained, and someone can let us know in the chat. Matthew, welcome to the podcast. Thank you
Hey,
for the
Matt.
love. We love you as well. We love all of our live audience, and be sure to take part when you're here. Ask questions away, and we'll pull it up at certain stages. But yeah, like I do think that what I think happened. Let me just sort of gather my thoughts on this one. What I think happened was Parvati panicked. She was out there. She tried to do the goblet thing. She wanted to take someone out. She noticed that no one really wanted anything to do with it. So the easiest way to do it is to go to someone that trusts you, that potentially will have some fun with you. And she made it very playful with Ekin-Su. Clearly, they had that kind of playful relationship between the two of them where she could get her to sip out of it. And I thought it was well done. Like, I think it's harder to sit on the sidelines and critique on this. And I'm coming from a non-biased thing on this. I know you loved Ekin-Su. I know it hurts. But as a non-biased supporter, I do think that she did the right thing here. And I agree with Chadud. She has fire confessionals. She's definitely carrying the confessionals at this point. So are you telling me you're low on Parvati moving forward now? Are you off the Parvati train?
Well, as Phaedra said, nobody likes you, Parvati. All right, like and I'm one of them. How dare she take out Ekin-Su? Like like Ekin-Su was providing so much cover for Parvati, where everyone was thinking it was gonna, like, everyone was literally gonna vote off Ekin-Su, right? And the whole drama between her and Phaedra could have lasted till a different time, a different episode. But no, let's kill off the hot one because she's no longer the hot one. So now she has to kill off Ekin-Su to be the hot one. But no, I
think it was a mistake, yeah.
It was a massive mistake. Absolutely massive mistake. And I think that's exactly what's about to go into. So with banishment, they've started making like different factions, different allies. Ekin-Su would have been a great number for Parvati, a fantastic number. But let's just kill off the Queen of Traitors, the Queen of Love Island. I'm done. I'm actually done. This is exactly why Bigfoot has not been proven to be existing, right? As I said last week, Ekin-Su, she's doing the Bigfoot strategy. She's doing the Sasquatch strategy, right? She's sort of like hiding in plain sight, creating that drama with Janelle, but then she's tipping out. She's blurring into the background, just like all the Bigfoot photos, right? But this is exactly why Bigfoots haven't been proven to exist, because once they're proven to exist, they're just going to get shot. They're going to get poisoned. They're going to get murdered. All right. So
I don't know where this thing is. I don't know where you're going on this one, but just to reel it back on this, Okay. I think it was a mistake. She's lost allies, which probably isn't a good thing because we do hear from a few people, even Phaedra during the episode, saying that obviously she has no allies, in the game, and that people already think that Parvati is one of the traitors. So at some point, I think she's making it easy for Dan to basically put suspicion on both Parvati and Phaedra while he starts blending into the background. The one thing Dan still needs to overcome, though, is that he is still very much on the hit list in regards to there being less guys. So Larsa did bring some good strategy in and saying, well, if we take a shot at the guys, there's bound to be a traitor within the guys. And that number is shrinking each week. So at some point, we'll be able to pick who the guy is that's a traitor. So I do think he's still got a lot of heat on him. I do want to go back and just read a couple of comments here as well. Chadud saying, what I realized is if you go on Reddit, people just put links to some interesting websites. What interesting websites are you talking about there, Chadud? But some of them stream... Some of them stream Traitors as well. So there you go. If anybody is looking for a way to watch, Chadud also, even though I find it interesting, it would be annoying for the fans of the show who get shut down and not allowed to play. I think that's why we should always try and support the show legally as well. So if you can go to Peacock and use a VPN.
Man of the law.
Yep.
As a man of the law, you should always do things illegally
illegally or legally?
Oh, legally.
Don't get us shut down, Mucky. You're going to get us shut down on this podcast. Courtney, welcome to the podcast so early in the morning in New York. We do appreciate you being up. It's probably really cold over there at the moment, I could imagine, as well, being winter on that side of the world. Kahuna is in the chat as well, so we know that he has survived Mucky's chalky milk and he is still alive and kicking. Jadu to say Courtney, but no one also hates her, meaning I think she is safe for quite a while. I think that Parvati's play, if she is smart in the game at this stage, is to say, the traders want you to think I'm a traitor. Like I'm the obvious target right now. Like they're keeping me in the game because they know that you are going to do their dirty work by removing me from the game. So that would be my strategy and how I would try and deflect and lower my threat level. How effective it would be, I don't know. I've never professed to be a great strategist when it comes to the traders, but I feel like that's probably her best move right now. But in some ways, if Parvati falls flat in this game, which I don't know if she's fallen flat yet, she still has some runway, but she's losing a bit of runway here. But if she does lose this, does she become that quarterback that needed to retire before getting too old and now she can't make the throws anymore? Like, is that potentially where Parvati sits? Because she didn't have a great run on Winners at War either.
But then again, you look at Winners at War and, the tribe she was on, she was literally on a tribe filled with like a pre-game alliance, right? Like she was screwed no matter what. And also it's kind of hard because when you think about it, Parvati, like the last main game she played was Heroes versus Villains, which was what, like 2010, and then Winners at War was like 2019, and then now this just a few years later. Like I feel like she's definitely had that gap, right? And maybe she's just coming back from that retirement, maybe. But there's a great quote which is sometimes the legacy can either like raise you as a person or can completely destroy you, right? And I think with Parvati's legacy, it is one of deceit. She's the one who led the All Girls Alliance in Micronesia, right? She's single-handedly the reason why people are scared of All Girls Alliances. So I think
it's a fair point. It's a big legacy to have coming into this game. And there's a few people who've got this legacy that potentially is hurting them a little bit in the game. We'll get into it in a little bit. But Matthew says also, I mean, this in the least disrespectful way possible, but Mucky looks like the ugly guy who would have a really attractive partner. Keep up the awesome work, guys. Well, listen.
Oh, gosh.
All I can say is Mucky's got some... Yeah, go for it.
Can I share some light on this? So this is from one of the boys. So I've got a date. I've got a date coming up with a really, really beautiful girl, and I was showing one of the boys at work a photo of her, and he was meant to say it like just in general, but it was just at the worst timing. He was like, "Oh, gee, I don't know why beautiful girls go for such really ugly guys." And I was like, "What the hell?"
I can say this. Mucky. It's all about what's inside. I know you've got you've got some riz, you've got some game, so don't worry about it.
I've got a great stomach.
It's impressive. Lovable Licky says, does Mucky ever not mention Bigfoot? No. I've had very, very long voice notes on Facebook Messenger from him talking about Bigfoot, and I normally what I do is I don't open them. I don't play them anymore. Like
he really doesn't.
He doesn't stop talking about it. Courtney says, I think Phaedra is more safe as Parvati has beef with Sandra too, who is side-eyeing her a lot. I agree. Phaedra has some runway because she's also got all of the housewives that I think will stick together. Like even after this episode, they now realize, oh, okay, we're being put together as a clique. So there's safety in numbers. So I do think that at least from a being banished point of view, for the moment, she's probably in a really good spot. But I am interested to see how things are going to play out because I feel like Dan is seeing Phaedra at the moment as a bigger threat, and he kind of wants to work with Parvati a little bit longer in the game. So that would be the only way I can see potentially for her to go home. I'm aware he played on House of Villains. Good to know he had a good ride there. For those that have not watched House of Villains, go check it out. Bananas is, in my mind, I know some people are hot and cold on him because he's been on so many seasons. In my mind, he is a great player. How brutal was it, by the way, in this episode? I actually had a bit of a laugh when they were singing about Bananas, and he was like, the choir singing on the daily mission, and they talked about like the two people that he trusted the most. I was laughing a little bit. I was like, this is actually so hilarious seeing Bananas picture up there while they're doing this thing. It was a bit over the top. And then I found it even more funny, and Kahuna would have gotten this because he's watched a lot of Challenge like myself. CT was correct. Like Bananas and him have gone head to head for many years. They obviously there's a mutual respect, but Bananas has never helped CT. So him being like, if there's one person who's going to play the game and screw us, it would be Bananas by saying Dan was his most trusted when he doesn't even know the guy, and he would just do it to mess with CT. So for a second there, I thought Bananas may have done that, but they probably told him he needed to be serious in this question.
Yeah, no, like you can tell that the producers are so gutted that Bananas was the first murder, right? Like they had like a small thing of him at the start of the episode, and like we think in episode 2 and 3 as well. and now they've got another thing, like a literally big photo and a choir about him in episode 4. They're really trying to show how sad they are that Bananas was the first murdered. But yeah, no, it's like that's something that I love about like returning player cast, right? It's like you have that history, you have that banter, and as an outsider to the challenge and you know the housewives, even though I don't fully understand the context, I'm sort of like picking up. Oh, okay, CT Bananas must have gone head to head a lot, you know, with CT's joke, like, oh, you know, he's never done me a good solid. So
yeah, dude, listen, I know why it happened. It's because Dan played the game, and Dan's not about like he's one of those guys. He'll take the route that makes the most sense. And I think taking out Bananas early was a good move because Bananas is a good game player. And if Bananas stayed there for a while, I think he would have become more and more dangerous as the game continued on. What did you think about the producers having fun with all of the traitors in the beginning of the episode where they were all sitting there and they're expecting Ekin-Su not to come in, and she does come in, and you see Parvati's face and everybody and how they reacted. Yeah. Did it live up to what the producers were trying to do there, and add a little bit of suspense? Because obviously the traitors had to act for all of that as well. Oh wow, no one's going home. I thought it was a good little twist.
Yeah, I thought it was a great twist, and you know, just moving forward a wee bit as well. Like when they said in the challenge that like, oh, you get to find out who the players that was poisoned. I was thinking, if they found it out, does it mean that Ekin-Su gets saved? Does this mean that the Bigfoot goddess can finally get saved? And oh, that would just make my year, Chris. But no, it's not. It's not that.
She didn't mention Bigfoot once.
She mentioned conspiracy theories, and Bigfoot falls under that, right? It's not very often.
I very much doubt. Women. I very much doubt, like I'm dashing your dreams here. I very much doubt like Bigfoot was what she was thinking about when she spoke about the fact that she believes in conspiracy theories. Like I think it's more that she potentially thinks that, you know, there's a flat earth or something. It's that type of conspiracy theories most likely that she's into.
I did reach out to her, but so far no response. So
oh well, stay posted. If you like, this is one way for you to continue to watch the show until the end of the season for coverage, because Mucky will give us an update at least once every episode on if he has received a DM back from Ekin-Su. And I will say one thing, you know, Mucky has received a reply from previous reality TV stars when he's reached out. One of them are very gorgeous Australian Survivor former player, you know, so Mucky does have the ability to get those replies on DM sometimes, you know. Yeah. Did you ask if she was into Bigfoot?
I did, yeah. I was like, I just want to clarify something. You said on the show that you believe in conspiracy theories, and I just really want to know, like, do you believe in Bigfoot? And that's all I left it. So I hardly use Twitter, so if everyone here can do me a massive solid and tweet at Ekin-Su to respond to my DM, that would mean the world to me. Thank you, Kahuna. Thank you. And thank you, Courtney. Thank you.
You guys should not be encouraging Mucky. That's all I'm saying. You should not. This is very, very dangerous. Yeah, Loch Ness as well. But yeah, no, listen, I like the fun they had with it in the beginning of the episode. I do think, just before we move on Parvati's choice here, very, very bad decision from her at the end, because she did get rid of an ally. And this was one of the few times in the Traitor show where she had all the power. Like she could have literally gotten rid of anyone that she wanted. And I don't think that the Traitors would have been able to do much because they had to rely on someone to do it. And she could have made up something like, oh, it was too difficult to take so-and-so out, so I had to go for your main alliance members, Phaedra. Sorry about that. You know, so she could have done whatever she wanted, and she missed that opportunity. Maybe because she's also the newest traitor in the group. It kind of held her back from doing what she should have done. Another thing that I wanted to bring up, and I didn't even realize that this happened until I went back to look at the cast photos after the episode, is that somewhere in between all of this, I don't remember Deontay ever leaving the game. And apparently he quit. And there was like no mention of it. We saw him really struggle with the fact that he voted out a friend in the previous episode. Did you even realize that Deontay was gone? Because I didn't realize it until after the episode.
Yeah, I literally written it down in my notes. Like Deontay's quit was just like a Squid Game elimination. Like you just had no idea that they were even gone. And so like apparently he quit in between the night and in the morning. Maybe he just couldn't handle that he had voted off an innocent, a faithful. Deontay quit.
Yeah. So he quit. He's not there anymore. Gone by the next day. And then Lovable Nikki said it was mentioned very briefly at the beginning of the show. So I kind of missed that completely. Labai Surunai says the Ikensu coffin reveal was not that interesting. It's just Alan closing the coffin. That's it. They may ask her to hide behind any bush when they buried the coffin. I actually thought the same thing, Labai. I didn't feel like when they were like throwing dirt on the coffin, she was in it. I feel like they would have told her just to leave. And then for the drama of it, it would have looked like she was in the coffin when they closed it. But the most interesting thing about this whole thing, obviously, a couple of funny things happening. I did laugh at MJ. She does have some good confessionals and saying, no one knows my age, not even my husband, not my doctor. You know, now I have to talk about my age here. But the most interesting thing of this whole thing, when they got to the end, for me, really was how the Traitors played it. They played it 100% correctly. Like Dan said, it's not worth showing my cards right now and choosing the right person. I have to, even though I know I'm throwing $25,000 down the drain, I have to go with the numbers. And I don't think there was a benefit, even if you're a faithful, there's no benefit in going in your own direction here. You're going to look suspicious regardless. So the right move was to just pile on one person.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Phaedra, who had probably the most funniest confessional this episode. And it was when Ikensu, you know, walked into the room. She's literally like, no, it's either, you know, that Parvati did not give Ikensu the cup, or she's the second coming of Jesus Christ. like Phaedra's killing it with the confessionals. I absolutely love Phaedra.
No, I'm a massive Dan fan. Like Dan is like one of my favorite reality TV stars of all time. And because I'm Team Dan, like I kind of want him to win out over Phaedra. And the Parvati Dan showdown is something I'm looking forward to as well. But outside of that, I do think the show will be poorer if they did lose Phaedra, because she definitely is one of those people that are carrying the show from a confessional standpoint. And also her side looks that she gives, like when she's not impressed by something, like if looks could kill, Phaedra's got it. Right? In fact, she's got all of it. She's got the full package. So I see why they brought her onto the show. Massive fan of her. Never watched any of her original show, but she's been a breath of fresh air in this very, like, it could have been a very game body season if it was only big game players coming in.
Yeah, and I think that's actually we're starting to lean towards, because this banishment is probably one of the most interesting banishments I have seen on any of the Traitors shows, because normally with most Traitors, it comes down to, like, okay, who is just a traitor, right? But sometimes you get stuck in really sticky situations where it's like just one person outside of a natural group. It's like, oh, well, we don't want to vote anyone in our group, so I guess we're just going to vote for you and just hope you're a traitor, right? But at least with this, the sort of, like, whether they think, you know, Lars was a traitor or not, I'm not sure. Lars said in an interview, I'm not sure if you saw, but she thinks that Janelle is just jealous of how much screen time Larsa was getting, and so that's why they banished her. But I think it's really interesting that they're choosing to take out members of that faction just simply to, like, lower their numbers down, so they don't have much control in the game. Because there's only been one player. Yeah, it makes perfect sense. There's only been one player, out of all the Traitors franchise I've seen, who's actually been able to crack, like, a tight faithful group, and that was Brooke and, you know, Traitors New Zealand. But we look at Traitors Australia, how much of a stronghold Sam had on that game, because there was just so much blind faithful attached to him, right? And so I think this is really smart. The more game bots you have, like, you know, your Big Brother, Challenge, and Survivor players, the more open field the game is, rather than just stuck to one group. So
yeah, but I also think that I get where you're coming from with that, but I think also having what you may perceive as like goats or lambs to the slaughter, and the fact that you've got all of these housewives that are playing together that have never played a competitive reality TV show, there are some strength in numbers. And I think Larsa was her own worst enemy in this game, because she was constantly starting to target certain people. She was constantly going on, it has to be a man, it's got to be CT, you know, being very vocal about what she wanted to do. At some point, that was always going to get the attention of the bigger group, where they're like, we can't give Larsa too much power, because she's dictating where the rest of the housewives' votes are going with some of the people from the Bravo network. So you need to get rid of ringleaders like that if they're not in your clique. So I think the vote on Larsa, and specifically how she played the game, we know you don't want to play the game too aggressively. If you do, you kind of get the treatment that an Annabelle got when she tried to take control of the game, or a Luke got. It's a different game to Big Brother and Survivor, where the more you step up, the more you control the numbers. Like Marcus almost did this season in the beginning, where everybody trusted him as well. At some point, you're going to get taken out. So a lot of people are saying, for instance, where did I see that comment that, Dan's not as impressive. Dan's not giving original gangster energy. He was better on Big Brother. I do think Dan is playing yes, he's playing a more passive game and he's trying to sit back. I do think it's a smarter way to play. It's dangerous because they've now called him out for it. But the worst thing he can do is change his personality. And I think that's why he needs Parvati in the game. Like, he's like, I need to create a diversion. I need for us to throw some doubt to the housewives. I can't be the one to do it, because if I suddenly change my character here, I'm going to put more of a target on myself. So I think Dan's playing a very underrated game at the moment. He's maybe not playing a flashy game, but there's a lot of subtle things that he's doing. Like, I think his best move by far was convincing Parvati to do his dirty work this episode. And Parvati's no fool. So for him to be able to get her to put herself in front of him as a potential shield, I was amazed that he was able to actually pull that off.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I think, as I said earlier in the podcast, Dan has gone from being the person, like the first traitor out, to my opinion, to now being the last traitor out. Because I think if this war, like in the traitors group, happens, Phaedra's going to be throwing Parvati under the bus because she feels most betrayed by Parvati, and Parvati's going to be going hard against Phaedra. So if anything, Phaedra's going to bring down Parvati, or like majority of eyes will be on Parvati and not Dan.
And I think both of them are going to want to work with Dan, because I feel like that fraction between Phaedra and Parvati now is of such a nature where they won't work together. They're not going to come together to go against Dan, so they both need Dan as a number at this stage.
Yeah, and I think it's because Phaedra recognizes that Parvati took out the hot one, right? She saw that Ekin-Su was hotter than her. No, Ekin-Su. She saw that Ekin-Su was hotter than her, so she murdered her. And Phaedra's probably thinking, damn, I'm pretty gorgeous. What if Parvati's going to come for me next?
You're right there in Larsa's, age range for who she dates. So you may have a chance. You might be in with a shot, Mucky. If you play your cards right, you should be dropping into Larsa's DMs as well.
Well, if Larsa says she believes in Bigfoot, I might give it a try. Who knows?
There we go. It
doesn't take much to convince me.
let's have a look at what people are saying here. Sam in Australia was hilarious. Yes, he was, until he was a sore loser at the end. But for the most part of the show, you've got to say he was carrying the show. 100%. Larsa so mouthy. I totally agree. Phaedra is the only housewife that did her research on everyone. She knows people's game. Yep. Phaedra is the most impressive so far, and I think they chose her for a reason as well. Lovely is saying Sandra saved CT but targeting Larsa, and I thank her. Yes, CT became a target because you spoke about someone like Parvati coming in with this reputation, right? So her reputation of being deceitful, her reputation of being able to manipulate people. CT's coming in with a reputation of his own. He's coming in with a reputation that he is what we call in the challenge, basically the Oprah Winfrey of the challenge. Like, how she hands out cars to everybody and keys. He hands out championships to people. Whoever is attached to him as a team member, they win championships and they win seasons because he's just that good. So, when you come in with that Oprah Winfrey energy, the person who can make people champions, the person who can carry a season on their own physically, that is a big target where, Larsa rightfully called out, you could be the traitor because you don't need anybody. You could literally carry all of us on your back through these missions and we would still make money. So that's a big target for someone like a CT to come in with as well. How do you feel he's adapting to the game at the moment and from what you've seen from him?
Yeah, so I obviously haven't seen the challenge. So CT, Trisham, bananas, even though I prefer oranges, I haven't seen much of, right? So this is my first show of all of them. And I'm really enjoying them. I love bananas in the half an episode he was in, and I'm really enjoying what CT and Trishal are bringing. I quite liked their moment as well they had.
That was
outside. Good. Like, even though I don't know their history, like, I sort of felt that, if you know what I mean. And also another reason why I love returning player casts. And yeah, I think CT is playing really well. Like, if I was there, I would assume he is a faithful. Like, if I was in the manner, I feel like he's playing really local, really chill.
And that's what Courtney is saying here. CT plays a smart game. He's opinionated Boston guy, but playing a low-key game as well. And I know that for people who are challenge fans, like CT is one of those people that, because the challenge, they get people coming back every single season. They've literally seen him grow up from this young meathead guy that would get in trouble and fights. He actually got removed one season because he got in a fight with another contestant.
Oh my gosh.
And then came back in. So he was that guy. He was like Trishelle said, he was that alpha male jock type of energy type of guy. And they haven't been on a season for many years because Trishelle's not really, she's not really in the main cast anymore. She doesn't really come back as often anymore, but CT still is. So she hasn't really seen the evolution that he's had, and he has become like Uncle CT, Dad CT. He's got that kind of energy about him now, and it's great to see them sort of bond and know that they have to have each other, and them sort of saying that they will share that information as it comes across. I feel like that was a pivotal moment in the game, seeing those two bond. And if I had a little bit of money to put on this, and there was like some sports bets going on for Traitors, I would kind of say this could be a little alliance that could go very deep in the game, because I don't feel like they're even on the Traitors radar at the moment as people that they want to get rid of.
Yeah, it's really hard to read the game of Traitors, like with the winners edit in the storm where it's going to go. But like, I was thinking, why did they show us that scene? Because such a small, such a minor scene, and if there's no payoff to it, then why even show it, right? But I feel like there will be a big thing about it. Maybe then the final together or something, that's how both of them win as faithfuls, or maybe CT or Trishelle, gets recruited.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
and they use the other one. Imagine that. They do all this repair. Their relationship is finally in a good place. One of them gets recruited, possibly CT, and he has to manipulate Trishelle, and all that hard work of them coming together is done. It's no longer a thing moving forward in the game. But I'd love to see these two get to the end. I'd love to see that specific moment play out in the bigger scheme of things. Courtney is saying, true, Chris, good argument for Dan. Lovable Nikki is saying Marcus and Lassa were the only people who knew who were on the cast each other. They do not see the others until they arrive to the vehicles. Courtney says Parvati gave Ekansu the drink because she is a lush. Yeah, I can see it. Like what you she's beautiful, I think. It's like it's like a compliment. And I believe Parvati now has a girlfriend. So who knows? Like it could have been.
No.
I think I don't know if it's like no, it's not Ekansu. I just saw, because I'm not on social all that often. Like I just don't have time these days to get onto social media. But I'm on a couple of Facebook groups for Survivor fans, and I saw a Survivor fan post the picture of her and a new girlfriend. So I don't know if that's a thing or not. But yeah. So who's the girl who kind of called her, like I think there was a girl many seasons ago that asked Parvati about like her sex life outside of the game, and
Natalie.
So Natalie may have been onto something there way before anybody else.
Maybe.
She got some energy from it. Okay. Fat Slim Kuna says a lush means she's a drunk. She's from the UK. Isn't that just like normal for people from the UK to drink a lot?
Exactly.
Have you ever met a Pommy, someone that's from Britain that does not drink a lot? Like I feel like all of them are big drinkers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it was an easy target.
Yeah.
Courtney, you know what I'm talking about, like everybody that is tied to CT, they get their turn in the sun. He makes champions. That's all I'm going to say. Chadwood saying to Lovable Nikki, I just felt like no one was on the vote of alpha male train except the housewives. I did feel like Lassa made the best argument she possibly could have made, though, when she was saying there's less guys. So process of elimination, if there's only like 5 guys in the game, I don't remember how many are in the game at this stage. Let's have a quick look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys still left in the game. Chances are 2 of them could be traitors, so only 4 of them are still faithfuls. Like if you just keep going down, like has Lassa figured out a way to break the game maybe for a future season? Just go down, like say, okay, we're just going to start eliminating a bunch of females until we get there, or a bunch of males until we get one right. Like is she breaking the game a little bit here?
Maybe. It's sort of like
she's ahead of her time, Mucky.
You slice a sandwich in half. It's like, okay, what side do I just quickly devour now? Do you get what I mean? But I do think though, because I'm not exactly sure what the numbers were for each side, but I think if the Housewives and John and even Peter potentially had stuck their votes together, it could have been a really close vote, and maybe CT could have gone out. But I think it's because they'd spreaded their votes across Kevin, CT and whatnot, that maybe that's why they didn't actually have a chance in that banishment. But I think if they actually all stuck their votes together, like I'm not sure off the top of my head, like who exactly voted who, but it seemed like it would have been really close.
The Kevin one for me was just hilarious. Like Kevin, being considered, like, because Kevin's not, I don't feel like he's like, even Parvati and them painting like this picture, you're an actor, you're in this and that. He's just not that guy. Like he doesn't, like anybody who knows him from his main show that he's in, like, which I've seen and I can't bloody remember the name of it now, which is about all these very rich, affluent Asians that I believe live in Los Angeles. Like he's like the fun party guy, but he's kind of like, I don't want to say dumb, but he's kind of like gullible, like he's this gullible guy. So you just don't look at him and be like, oh, this guy's going to be able to pull off being a traitor. Like if you know anything about him, so that was kind of interesting. And the whole, like when MJ talking at the round table and him being like, if I was a traitor, you'd be gone. Like I'd take you out. I don't like you. Should the traitors just remove MJ next? And it'd be like, clearly it was, Kevin. He said he was going to do it in plain sight. He's doing the double bluff. Yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like the double bluff is low-key the way to go now, because everyone would then suspect, like, oh, it's so obvious, right? Because the traitors talk about how it's obvious, the faithfuls talk about how obvious it is. I feel like there needs to be a season where they just make the most obvious choices, because I don't think anyone would actually catch on to that.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like the move right now for someone like a Dan who's like under pressure because there's not many men left. If you have like the next traitor go, like let's say Phaedra or Parvati, one of those two leaves, you almost need to recruit another man so that you can give them a man ahead of yourself and hopefully try and eliminate the suspicion. But he's still in a very precarious spot. Like he's not completely out of danger with the men and the numbers dwindling the way that it has dwindled so far in the game.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that there are actually more targets ahead of Dan than what we may realize. So I think Kevin's out there. I think now that CT's name has been brought out, maybe people might think of CT and also someone who we haven't really talked about so far, but the Bachelor, Mr. Peter himself.
He's been impressive at times this season. There's been some times this season that he's had really good reads on who potentially the traitors could be. He brought in the whole fake strategy with him and Kevin targeting each other to throw everybody off and so that they can keep both of them in the game. But the one thing I think that he got wrong this episode is that he's now convinced MJ is a traitor. Like after this whole thing, he's like, well, MJ has to be the traitor. So he's finally also now going maybe in the wrong direction. And obviously he had his moment with the roses where he was like, again, I'm handing out roses to, bachelorettes basically on the show.
Yeah, but I think I think that read is not wrong to a certain degree. Like we obviously know it's wrong because does Dan, Parvati and Phaedra, but I do think that
if we were there, we would have never had. We would never have had a wrong read. We would have been right the whole time. Like it would have been impossible for us to miss
especially me, because with the Bigfoot strategy, there is no wrong. All right. It's
what is the strategy? Right. Align with people that could be seen as Bigfoot enthusiasts, or eliminate them so that you can claim to be the biggest Bigfoot enthusiast.
Well, what I do is I sneak on the show my tape measure and I go on and I just quickly check. Okay, Chris has got size 12 shoes. Nah, he's a small foot. He's got to go. And make sure that everyone that's left has got really big feet.
Oh, man. Hopefully no show ever has you as their casting director, because I feel like it would be a very interesting show. Let's read a couple more things here. Courtney says CT plays smart game. Again, we've seen that one. Also says CT and Trishelle, they tested each other. So this is a comeback. And then saying, yes, Chris, CT gave roid energy sometimes. And from memory with CT's backstory, and I can't remember the exact one. I might be wrong. So anybody in the live chat, remind me, because I've seen a lot of those early seasons only once. I haven't seen it twice, like some day one challenge fans that watch it consistently. But I feel like he lost his brother, like at some point as well. Like I'm pretty sure his brother passed away. And during one of those seasons, like he was dealing with some stuff. He probably shouldn't have been on the show where, that kind of came into play. And then He's lost some people in his life because he also lost one of his love interests that he had on the show that passed away sadly, RIP Diem. So obviously he's gone through some stuff, and I think that will shape you in a different way. But he had to deal with some demons as he grew older on the show and kept coming back. Like, we really saw him mature into the person that he is now. And now CT is by far, I think he's like the most loved person on the challenge. Like, everybody loves CT. They want CT to come back. And last week we were very lucky to have CT twice. We had him on the Traitors show, and then we also had him on the challenge, make a reappearance as a mercenary, coming in as a previous champion to take out one of the current season challenges, which was really fun to watch. I do want to read through a couple more here. Courtney saying Mucky producers are producing that scene was important for later, I think. So Courtney is with you on that. Lovable Nikki says, charge it in the round table, depending on how the accused defends themselves. Anyone can be banished. Look at Max. His name came up. Terrible defense and got banished. Yeah. Max was never meant for this game. And we spoke a little bit about that last week. Courtney says, yeah, Parvati got divorced and is dating a lady. So there we go. I did see that somewhere. So I hope she's happy, and I hope that, she's found that person. Everybody deserves to find that person. Fat Dad says, Lush means, we've seen that. Transatlantic mix-up on languages. Courtney says, you're right, my brother is British, so obviously they are big drinkers. Who do you think is getting the biggest purple edit, Mucky? Who are we not seeing so far this episode? And the fact that you have to think about it means that they truly are getting a purple edit. I feel like this episode it was our main man, Bergie, your lookalike.
Yeah, my stunt double. We'll call on that my stunt double. Yeah, I was going to say Bergie, but I feel like we actually haven't seen much of Trishelle and Janelle as well. I feel like we'll maybe get like one confessional from them per episode, whereas everyone else would often get 2 or 3 like per episode. So yeah, I kind of like I feel like Bergsy, Trishelle, and Janelle are like the 3 ones that I'm a bit like.
I also Janelle I think had a few confessionals this episode, but John definitely didn't have much either. Like John was after a couple of good episodes, he kind of became a little bit more quiet. Courtney's asking, what does your hat say? So his hat is I love Shin Batty. It is for Star Wars fans, but that's as much as I know. It's a Star Wars character that he's a fan of.
Yeah, well, I'm more than a fan of, right? You know, if things don't work out well with Ekin-Su, I might just have to move back to Shin Batty. You know, she's in a different universe. She's a fictional character, but there's still a chance. There's always a chance. My last name is Hope for a reason. I have hope for the impossible, and I've pulled off the impossible before. So, yeah, but we'll see what happens.
May the force be with you forever. Like I hope you're practicing on your Star Wars Jedi powers. Could say Kevin is more passive than the housewives? It's true. He's very. I mean, I did find it hilarious when they were in the beginning saying like, and this is another way where Peter had a really good read when Alan came in and he's like, someone got poisoned, and he's like, who had something to drink last night from someone else? And I thought that they were gonna be able to put 2 and 2 together, but clearly there was just too much going on. And even, Ekin-Su couldn't remember the fact that Parvati made a drink out of the goblet, because that could have been the end of the game for Parvati if she had a good memory or if anybody could recall what happened in that moment. But it didn't come up. But then Kevin was like, I ate half of the food in the house yesterday, so it could have easily been me.
Yeah, I love that so much. It's like, well, I couldn't have drank anything, and I think last is like, yeah, that's because you ate everything, Kevin.
That's right. It's Bling Empire. That's the show Kevin plays in. Kevin gives piss poor actor and naive. And Chris, you're so right. I think it's in me saying he's a bit gullible. I like Kevin. I think Kevin would be like a great, like, I think he, like, out of the people that are on that show, he's the least obnoxious out of them. Like, I could see myself hanging up with them. Bling Empire is like a guilty pleasure of mine, Courtney. Like, I don't watch a lot of non-competitive reality TV, but I have watched Bling Empire. I know one of the ladies that was in that show actually passed away recently, which is sad to hear, because that will mean that she's not going to be in the 3rd season. Fat Dad Slim says the conspiracy is that Mucky is a shaved Bigfoot. I heard him say, "Gunigu." What is it? I don't know that.
I've got no idea.
But it's that chocolate milk hitting Fat Dad Slim's head, and he's like not making sense at the moment.
Well, really quick plug. If you've somehow, so
his brother passed away, and I think that he had some demons he had to deal with, and DM. So
Am I allowed to do a quick cheeky plug?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so Kahuna and I have been talking. There was one night after Million Dollar Island podcast where we chatted for an hour and a bit about mystical creatures and cryptids because Kahuna did not believe that I genuinely did believe in them. And
Yeah.
so we're going to get together and we're going to do a podcast about them on the Fat Dad Slim channel. So if you're interested to hear all of my takes about Bigfoot, Loch Ness, Wendigo, all different like conspiracy theories and cryptids, we're going to be doing a cheeky podcast about it, and I highly recommend checking it out because things can get very wild.
Yeah, there you go on the Fat Dad Slim channel.
Account. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's have a look here. Courtney says CD came to murder on the challenge. I agree. Courtney Gift, Janelle says that Janelle seems thirsty for the cash. She may be a good recruit later on. And I do think Dan potentially would consider bringing Janelle in. I don't think Parvati would be smart to do that because as soon as Janelle becomes a traitor, she becomes expendable because I think Dan would want to work with Janelle more so than potentially a Parvati in the game. So, I feel like Janelle's a good person just to have there for Dan at this point because I don't know if she's ever going to truly turn her back on him either in the game. Like, I don't know if she'll do that. She's fiercely loyal to her people. So I just don't see her turning her back on him. That could have been for anything Maki has said recently because there's been a lot. Childhood says, oh my God, how is Bergie still in the game? In the first episode, right after the Traitors got picked, he became so nervous and his face was red and starting to talk super fast. Also spilled a drink on himself.
He must have been with Ekansu. I would have done the exact same thing if I was sitting right next to her. So, yeah.
No more seasons of Bling Empire. That is sad. I actually quite enjoyed it. Chadu says, oh my God, when is this podcast about Bigfoot? Because I need to see this. Well, just subscribe to the Fat Dad Slim. Subscribe to that Fat Dad Slim channel so you can know the next time it comes on. And I'll also make sure to plug it when it comes in. Maki is Mulder from, do you remember the what was it called? The sci-fi files, the alien files, the UFO show? X-Files. There you go. The X-Files.
Yeah.
Mulder from the X-Files,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Gosh,
okay. We've really gone off topic on this one, but let's sort of finish it off with obviously they do have to choose someone here to take out. They do end up taking out Larissa, which now means that Cherie is really annoyed. She is starting to get the people together that are from the non-competitive shows to work against those that are from the competitive shows, which now means that the other side of the house are also coming together. So it does look that this is going to be quite new for the Traitors because previously in Traitors, we haven't really seen factions of the house go after each other just for a numbers game. It's always been truly about finding the traitor. But I do feel like even if you have suspicion that maybe I'm a traitor, but you know me and you know you can trust in my number, you may keep me in the game and just vote someone out at this stage so you can get more power in the game. Like, I feel like they're playing a Survivor Big Brother game within the Traitors at the moment.
Well, I think it's a case about, I sort of spoke about this earlier, like sometimes there are these big groups that form. And I think with the gamers side, you've got people who can be flexible and would be willing to cut ties if they did genuinely believe that they're a traitor. But with the Real Housewives, will they cut each other? Will Phaedra ever flip on Larsa? I'm not sure. And if it's a position where it's, the Housewives and then Dan and Parvati, is Phaedra really going to go to back them? No, Phaedra's smart enough to go with the Housewives, right? And so I think that by splitting them up, they're giving themselves more agency in the game. Because as we've seen with, Traitors Australia, when you're in Luke and Annabelle's position, what can you do to break up that group? It's just so tight, right? So I think, yes, it's a numbers game, but it's helping you actually find the Traitors in the future because it's more about working with people, not trying to work against a group, if that makes sense.
I agree. Chardud coming in with a trick question saying, do you think we'll ever get a better faithful than Annabelle? And the obvious answer, Chardud, I know you want me to say this, is yes. When Maki joins the game and becomes a faithful, there will be a better faithful than Annabelle.
Also, I just want to quickly brag, about the Traitors New Zealand. Sam Smith, not a professional singer, but the great comedian here in Australia, is the #1 faithful in New Zealand. He voted correctly at every single banishment and is the only player to get the most Traitors out in a single game.
And we do have the Sam Smith podcast as well on all of our audio platforms. If anybody watched that season and wanted to listen to it. On Spotify, you also get the video with it as well. So go check out the Nullified Take on Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, we're probably on there as well. And Courtney says, you're right, Mike. Totally agree with you on that.
But not everybody. Boy.
Yeah, not everybody's watched all of the different shows. Now, obviously, they do go up stairs, and we saw a little bit of that Phaedra versus Parvati, the prelim to the actual fight that's going to happen in Traitors Tower, where Phaedra fully takes the gloves off, and she's now bare knuckle fighting here with Parvati up in the Traitors Tower, with Dan looking very uncomfortable. With, I noticed Parvati was looking at him a couple of times, and Phaedra's looking at him for like reassurance, and he's in that awkward position of how does he handle these two women right now. But Phaedra is like, listen, this is not even a game for me. Like, I'm trying to play fair. If you don't want to play fair, I can go there. You think that you're from the streets. I was born there. I'll take you down. So, Phaedra's ready for a fight.
Honestly, like, Phaedra is going to eat Parvati up alive in that tower. And I think we're going to get a really random murder, because I think Phaedra's not going to allow them to take anyone out from the housewives. Dan and Parvati obviously aren't going to take out any of the gamers. So we might actually just get like it'd be so funny, but so sad if this is how Bergsey went out.
Just completely innocent in the whole scenario.
Yeah, exactly.
I do feel like, if it comes down to a vote, Parvati and Dan could outvote Phaedra in this moment. They could do that.
Maybe.
It's very interesting. I'm really curious to see where they go. I'm actually very confused as to what the next vote's going to be. And I think you could be right. It could be a very random person leaving the game next, like a Kevin or like a Bergie or like a John.
Yeah.
But I also feel like Dan's not going to go for another man. Like he can't afford to lose another man. So most likely we're losing a woman. And that would most likely be a housewife.
I mean, it'll be quite interesting to see, because we've never actually seen 3 people ever been an argument about who to murder, right? Normally it's like down to 2 people, but one would normally cave in, right? So does it come down to, okay, it's 2 against 1, so therefore we decide who the murderer is? Or do they all have to unanimously agree? I reckon
that's never been explained.
Yeah. So I
feel like it may be a vote.
Yeah, I think if there's a vote, then definitely a housewife is going. Otherwise, I think if they all have to unanimously agree, it will have to be someone like a Bergsey or like a Peter, someone who's not really in either or group.
Yeah, which would be horrible for Dan. Which would be horrible.
Oh yeah, horrible. Yeah,
like losing another guy at this stage. Chadu says, "I like how Dan just plays dumb and acts like he doesn't know what he's wanted to get rid of the housewives, and that's what makes Dan good. He can act aloof." Courtney's saying Phaedra is using the housewives as shields, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how things are going to turn out, and I'm all here for it. We will be back next week to talk about next week's action, obviously, as well. Lovable Nikki, thank you so much for putting that up there. Can everybody please like the live? It does help with the YouTube algorithm. If you're new to our channel, we're a couple of fans that love reality TV. We talk about all things Survivor, Survivor US, Australian Survivor, Survivor South Africa. When it comes back, we'll definitely have a home here on the Nullified Take channel as well. We talk about the challenge, the amazing race, now also the home for Traitors, and we're consistently trying to add more and more shows to the channel. There's much more, even shows I haven't even spoken about here that we've covered in the last year. So if you want to support a young up-and-coming channel, please consider subscribing, hitting the like, putting the notification bell on so you can be informed the next time that we go live. We're not always live at this time. Normally with some of the US shows, we do have a time that is better suited for everybody in the US as well. So there's 2 time zones that we work on. One is the Australian time zone here, Australian Eastern Standard Time. And then the other one, whenever we do US shows, normally we try and do it Eastern Standard Time, New York time over in the US as well. Chadud, you are the man. I appreciate you so much for the $2 with the likes up, and can't wait for Titans versus Rebels, which is going to be the next Australian Survivor season. We don't have a time yet for when we're doing our live, but most likely the live, Chadud, is going to be around 8 p.m., maybe 9 p.m., one of those 2 time slots for us to do our draft for Titans versus Rebels this week as well. Look out for it around Thursday evening. That's when we're thinking of doing it. Next week, it is going live. So if you're a fan of Australian Survivor, some great content coming over the next couple of weeks here on the channel as well. But for now, thank you, everybody in the live, for taking part in the conversation. We appreciate you all so much for being here, asking great questions, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.
Bye.